as a way to kind of slow us down. It wasn't necessarily a hard puzzle, but it was to come and slow us down, pacing, so we don't rush this level too quickly, at least on your first and second playthrough. So pacing wise, it slows you down. And then, and if they had shown us that all at once, like, again, we would have just been overloaded with so much stuff that was going on. It's like, so if we had seen that we had to do all that while we were over there, like, that would have detracted from the main goal, and it would have really made it confusing for us to actually it would have confused us a bit more. So let's hit on in. This is establishing the new elevators at the end of every portal. At the end of every test chamber, you go through a portal or an elevator. You go through a portal too, but that's part of the test. You go through the elevator. You kind of end on the elevator, and so they bring this elevator in, and they establish this is your new goal.
All right, let's get started. This first test involves something the lab boys call repulsion gel. You're not part of the control group, by the way. You get the gel. Last poor son of a gun got blue paint. All joking aside, that did happen. Broke every bone in his legs. Tragic, but informative. Or so I'm told.
And this is where we get to learn two things. So a new style of puzzle. The Cave Johnson lines in this I absolutely adore. I think J.J. Simmons did a great job voicing Cave Johnson, and I think just the writing for it was great. So this is now a new style. This is a new art style of puzzle. This is going to be a lot different from what we've seen before, and they're going to be progressively getting weirder and weirder as we go through. This one very much looks like one of the original puzzles that we had, just with a bit of a texture swap. As we go through. I mean, the X, that's normal. I don't think there's a little running man. I think there is, but we can see there's our exit. It's very clearly marked. The X showing, hey, all right, well, we got to do something with that. That goes all the way over. We lose it for a bit. Nope, no, we don't. And we see, all right, we got to go over there. And so it's helping this type of puzzle is starting to really help kind of gently bring the player into the new disjointed style of puzzle design that we're going to be using coming up. In terms of just a mechanic thing, this is repulsion gel. This makes you bounce and has some really fun sound effects that go with it. We'll be using that more coming up. But this is just kind of one of those things where we're forced to use it. We can't do anything else. And it essentially, I'm just pressing forward, and it essentially takes us to where we need to go. So it's very simply showing the mechanic in a way that is safe, informative, and clear-cut. And the small little musical elements too. Portal 2 soundtrack is fantastic also. All right, so we got something we got to do here. We see the box. We have to get all the way over there. And so now we know that we can bounce. There's no way for us to portal ourselves over there. So we jump and we see something else new. So we have basically been spoon-fed the new mechanic. And then in the same puzzle with the same thing, with the same pool of gel, we learned height limitations, that if we jump down, we go back up to the same height. We've learned some more things, and we actually had to do a little bit of work on this one, because I don't think if we walk okay, this is one where if we just walk off, it just hands it to us. There's another one down the road where that's not the case. A sign, not necessarily of a good puzzle, but of a pretty good puzzle design, is reusing the same element multiple times. So this is an element. This is a piece of the puzzle, and we used it once, came up, used it twice. We'll push the button, and a block drops, some new blocks, and we get to use it a third time. And this forces us to learn that like physics objects like that also interact. It's not just the player. So you can't assume these things. You should never ever make it so that the player has to assume how a mechanic works with other mechanics. You absolutely always need to show them how it works together.
The lab boys just informed me that I should not have mentioned the control group.
Oh wait, that was
They're
stupid.
telling me I ought to stop making these pre-recorded messages. That gave me an idea. Make more pre-recorded messages. I pay the bills here. I can talk about the control group all damn day.
So as we start moving through here, we start getting a bit more of establishing how old Aperture was and what they were like starting out. And it's like, we have this big sign. It's like, next test chamber this way. Oh. Not going that way. So we have to go back this way, and we are greeted with a new portable surface, which we haven't actually seen before. And now we need to figure out where's the next portable surface. Right there. I almost forgot for a second. But I shouldn't have. I should not have forgotten that. And I just blew the portals because I was literally looking at them. So that's my fault for just being stupid. But sometimes that's just the type of those things happen. And so the goal is to make sure that if the player misses something once, they aren't completely screwed. They want you can never do like a one-off thing that's pivotal to the thing. Because if for some odd reason, like there was a light up there and it shone on them, and then when I hit the top of the steps, it went dark and I couldn't see them anymore, that would have been really, really bad design. We wouldn't be able to actually see that anymore. And so we would have missed that on the first time. And then we would have been stuck, and then we would have got angry and rage quit, and then write a nasty little review on Steam. And you don't want that. That's just poor design. So if something is absolutely critical to either the puzzle, the level, or something that the player needs to know, it needs to be able to be seen multiple times, hard to miss, and if it is missed, easy to recover from in case they do end up missing it. So we're going to go this way because this is the way that the portal chamber told me to go.
For this next test, we put nanoparticles in the gel. In layman's terms, that's a billion little gizmos that are going to travel into your bloodstream and pump experimental genes and RNA molecules and so forth into your tumors. Now, maybe you don't have any tumors. Well, don't worry. If you sat on a folding chair in the lobby and weren't wearing lead underpants, we took care of that too.
Fortunately for us, we don't have to worry about that because we didn't sit in any folding chairs. So, let's do a bit of an establishing thing here again. Doorways, and I'm going to go on, this is the thing with level design, is that doorways are really important. And I always talk about framing and puzzles, and you want to make sure that players can always see what they need to do, and that type of stuff. And doorways are the only place, unless you take control of the player's camera, doorways are the only time when players are going to be looking exactly, maybe 90%, are going to be looking exactly where you want them to be looking. So, in this case, the thing that they obviously want us to see is blue gel, portable surface. Thing. We don't know what that is yet. But it's a thing, and we can power it, and there's another one here. Add in the lighting. Okay, this is an important thing. And then we can come in and we hear this, so we know that we got to deal with the mechanics, or not the mechanics, the moving platform. We see this cube here, and we know we got to do something with that, and none of this is portable. So now we have a bit of an idea. We'll turn around, we'll see, all right, hey, cool, there's our button, so we got to get that cube over to here so that we can activate whatever this is, and then we can go off and do a whole bunch of other stuff. So we have a bunch of pieces, and now we just got to start moving our way to those goals. So the first goal I think that we should probably do is, let's get ourselves over here to get the box to get it onto the button. This also shows that if you, just a minor but important thing, since we're going to be walking here, this just shows that you can walk on this, and it doesn't actually start jumping you until you jump once. And then once you're jumping, you're just going to keep going over and over and over again. So we can walk onto it just fine. And so it's only when there's impacts. Come on over. That does that. We know we can't actually do anything with that just yet, but we can go there. Because this is again highlighted. That one's not highlighted as much. We could use that one, but this one's highlighted a bit more. It's closer to us, and even though it's a little bit obscured by these braces, we know that that's something that we can use. I hate these parts of the puzzles because I always mistime them. We have the cube. I got the cube stuck. Don't get stuck again. And now we can just walk back and do what we just did. Now, as I'm going through this, if anyone has any questions about level design or what it's like to be a level designer or anything related to that, please go ahead and let me know. Just go ahead and ask. And if I don't see it, if you ask and I don't reply to it, ask again, because it might have vanished on the chat log. So we see this this button activates that flipper. So now we know these are flippers. And that's something that I don't think we had seen before, at least in this form, until we hit this style. So we know that's going to be a flipper 2. And now we have an idea. All right, we need to get a box over there to activate that flipper. We have some blue gel, which we had just seen allows us to do that. And now we have this button and a box. And oh dear God, there's no way to get over there. If we just decided to go this way, it's gonna force me to do it anyways. I didn't mean to actually do that, but if we had just walked over, we would have found that we can't go through and we can't jump up. And in this case, we could have even fallen. But since I kind of ruined it, we go through, bounce back and forth. I'm not touching anything. It's just it's moving me through it at its own rate. I can move forward, and I think it would move me a little bit quicker. But it's just a nice little. It's not really much of a puzzle per se, but it is kind of introducing this trick that you can do with repulsion gel. That's just really, really fun. And it gives you enough time that you can practice control, and so you can in theory just stay here for a while. I'm not going to because that would get really boring. But it is pretty fun. And we can't take this box through the wall because it would break the box if we went through this field. And then finally, these fields reset all portals. So you'll notice that I had a portal there, but if I walk through it, it goes away. That just basically forces us to know we have to do this either fresh from portals, or there's no way for us to like cheat our way out. So just little tiny things like that. So now we have that. And so now we need to go back up to that to get all the way up to the exit, which we can now see. So this is one of those puzzles where we didn't see the exit. We didn't see the exit until the very end, or at least not at the beginning, like some of these other puzzles, but we still had enough information to move us towards the exit in general. And that's one of the puzzles, or that's one of the things that you want to be careful with puzzle design, is if you're not going to show them, Portal, or, I'm sorry, yes, King Crabs, Portal is one of my favorites too. If you're not going to show the player Portal, or, God, if you're not going to show the player the exit right away, then you need to be showing them, you need to be walking them through the puzzle and the goal as you go through. So we have is that the blue one? Yeah, so we have the blue one over there. I need to go back this way. Bounce, my friend. And we'll walk through. We know that we're going to be able to bounce our way up, and they give us enough grading to catch that. Just a bit of a callback to some of the earlier stuff that we did, and we can move on.
Oh, in case you got covered in that repulsion gel, here's some advice the lab boys gave me. Do not get covered in the repulsion gel. We haven't entirely nailed down what element it is yet, but I'll tell you this, it's a lively one, and it does not like the human skeleton.
We're just going to ride an elevator up, as we do with all the other puzzle things. Yeah, the combustible lemons, there's a lot of hazards in this game, and I'm glad, like, they're all hazards. Like, if you get covered in repulsion gel, don't actually, like, that's bad. And I actually don't think, I don't think you ever get covered in that. Covered in the gel. But you do get covered in the white gel and the orange gel, but I don't know if there's ever a place where you get covered in blue. I could be wrong. I think somebody else, like, I missed the name. It is a problem, but I was talking about it earlier about how
latency of 44.6 years.
Stop talking, Cave.
So if you're 30 or older, you're laughing. Worst case scenario, you miss out on a few rounds of canasta. Plus, you forwarded the cause of science by 3 centuries. I punch those numbers into my calculator, it makes a happy face.
So I think someone pointed out it's like one of the problems of Valve convincing players to look up. I think that's okay. I was talking about it earlier. They do some tricks, though, to kind of encourage you to look up, like giant exit signs floating in the sky. But in this case, it's like there's architectural stuff that kind of points up. And then after a while, if they train you enough early on, which they would have, and they do somewhat in the first 2 hours or so of the game, you just eventually instinctively start looking up. And so you're like, all right, I gotta go exit, elevator, there's my goal. And I only have one way to go. Getting stuck on these girders. So not much of a level design tip, but if you're doing gray boxing, which is basically a level designer's sketch of a level in the engine, using basically just gray textures and boxes. That's how all levels start off. If you want to see what gray boxing looks like, go onto Twitter and search for #Blocktober. A bunch of level designers, including myself, have been showing and using that hashtag to show off level design blockouts for puzzles and levels that we've made. So if you kind of want to see what a blockout looks like, but Stanley Parable is something that I would like to do. Yeah. So with this, you didn't need to make this all like girders. But the way that they have it designed is I can't get back onto these girders, so I'm not going to be able to go back that way, so now I only have to focus ahead of me. And again, like I mentioned earlier, when you have cutoffs like this, it just divides, in the player's mind, it breaks down the, it just breaks down the kind of the barrier, or like a mental bubble that we have that reminds the player that, hey, you don't have to be paying attention that much to this area anymore. You can move on to something else. So this is one of these where so we got be a little while. But I will just mention, if you are going to miss, if you have to go anywhere, I am recording this right now. The VOD will be going up on my YouTube channel, probably starting tomorrow. Over the next 2 days, I'll get all of this up. So if you want to just watch it via YouTube, you can do that then. So this is one of those places where they don't really show you that this is way up here. Like, this is way out of where I would have put it. I would not have made this. They made this a like a 1 step up to this point to get to here. I would have probably made it 2, with a midpoint somewhere in between, because this was really high up, even higher than we've had to look in some other maps. So we're not necessarily trained to look in that way.
I like your style. You make up your own rules, just like me.
Get those out of the way.
I said I couldn't fire a man just for being in a wheelchair. Did it anyway. Ramps are expensive.
Thanks, Cave. Yeah, so I would have made that like a 2-point thing, like 2 points. Like, you would have seen 1, and then you jump to it, and then you see the next one, and then you jump to that, and then you would see where we are now. We got a nice little blob of gel here. Okay, so you can't get covered in this stuff. My bones, then. And so this is a puzzle where we don't necessarily, like, we came in from over here. There is absolutely no way to frame the start of this puzzle, with the exception of the fact that we will be able to see when we come in, we'll probably be facing in this direction just based on how the portals are aligned. So we know we got to go over here. We saw this as we turned around. This is a difficult puzzle to make because the player, you don't have the framing from the doorway to show the player the goals they need to make. So they have to be, you have to encourage curiousness when it comes to designing puzzles and stuff like that. And in this case, I guess this would have been the entrance. So if we wanted to, we could come over and be like, all right, this is the first important bit. This is the second important bit. We know that we have to drop this. And now we're also learning that we can start spraying this around. And in that case, we see we have to get up there. So we do that. We'll fire off one more. Ow. Jump on up and ta-da. So we cannot fire a portal through this, and we know that we need to get gel all the way over here so we can get over to there. So we need to get ourselves up to there, and to do that I'm just going to drop this, then move you there, we'll drop you over there, do one more. So this is going to make me bounce twice, and that's not enough, oh no! Actually, how did I get up there last time? Oh, right here, I think. We'll do it this way. And we'll do one there. Let's do one more right here, too. I mean, you could spend the entire day just going through and covering this, and there's a puzzle, and I think actually an achievement later on that allows you to do that. Where you're given portable gel, which is the white gel, and you're able to just like literally cover, like the whole goal of it is to cover what you need, and you can just cover the entire level, and I think there's an achievement for that. So we need to basically just get this over here, and we'll do that by doing this blob. So we came into this puzzle not knowing exactly what we needed to do, but we had clues that showed us enough, and we had enough background stuff that they had taught us, just that we had already learned, to be like, all right, these are things that we know we need to do. Moving forward, I hate the fact that I just fell. Come back. And so now we know we can just get back over there and bounce. Here's the problem though, and I'm not going to do this because it would waste time. If I just ran over there, hello Mindy, if I just ran over there right now and jumped, I wasn't going to make it. I would fall, and then we'd have to redo this all over again, and that gets really, really annoying. So we have to go back farther to what we're doing, and what are we essentially doing to this blob right now? We're flinging the blob. And so now we need to fling ourselves. And that's why they give us this height advantage here. That's why this portal is here too, or this portal blocker is here, to make it like, to kind of remind us like that's what we need to do, and we're gonna have to fly through it so that we don't, and we'll probably not be allowed to have portals over there, or we're gonna need to reset it. So I'm gonna go ahead and just jump off and bounce our way through. The other thing this will help teach that was kind of taught earlier was when you jump on that, momentum is conserved. Kind of back to Portal 1 with GLaDOS saying speedy thing goes in, speedy thing comes out of the portals. Same thing with the gel. Your forward momentum and your forward speed is maintained. And so we're just up here now. And here's the goal. There's the giant exit sign that we saw, which now we know is completely irrelevant. Like, there was no way we could see this exit sign with the exception of right here. And so it kind of doubled as a giant sign from where we were all the way down there. So we can see that's our goal right there. And then come over here, and when we're in there, we go, all right, we got to get all the way over there. So it's a bit of a visual thing too. Normally, I see a lot of level designers early on when they're making levels and designing stuff, they're afraid to use signs. I know in Team Fortress 2, a lot of people are afraid to use signs, and you don't want to overuse signs. Like, you don't want to label everything. You don't want to be guiding the player through signs. You want to be guiding the player through the level via the level. But in some cases, you need those signs to remind the player, hey, you need to go over here.
Kepler 7, we implanted a tiny microchip about the size of a postcard into your skull. Most likely you've forgotten it's even there. But if it starts vibrating and beeping during this next test, let us know. Because that means it's about to hit 500 degrees, so we're going to need to go ahead and get that out of you pretty fast.
So again, we walk through here. If we didn't realize it, if we didn't learn it beforehand, we once again know that we can just walk on this gel. We don't have to jump on it. And we're introduced to a new gel. This is something that we haven't seen before. It's straight up water. And so we have no idea what's going on there. We see that one little button right there, so we probably need to do something with that, but we haven't actually been able to see that. So let's see if we can actually do something with that now, because that's really small. So we won't be able to necessarily get ourselves stuck there. Wait, come back. There we go. So let's see if we can pop that. Wait. Oop, jump myself into that. Nope, come back. One more. There we go. And that turns off the water, which now allows us to do this, but it's timed. And if we're not quick enough, we are going to learn water gets rid of all of the paint things. Now, something that I don't like about this is, and maybe you'll if you remember what we've been talking about beforehand with introducing new mechanics, is you want to introduce it in a manner that guarantees that the player is actually going to see it and that they're actually going to use it and know exactly what it does. I personally don't think that somebody who has made it this far into Portal is going to see everything here and immediately realize that that's what water does. So we have this problem here. Players are going to potentially miss out on this because there's technically two things that you could do. You could do what I did, which is go in and jump right there and hit the button and then learn that turns off the water, but then you never learn what the water does. Or you go over there or you fire at that and you do exactly what this is doing now, and you then realize what it does. But it's a 50-50 chance. And I'm personally not a fan of it when you're introducing mechanics like that, especially kind of big mechanics like that can undo other mechanics. I consider the water, even though it's it is underplayed, I still consider it a very important mechanic in this game.
Forward and backward. So do both of yourselves a favor and just let that handsome devil go about his business.
This is where we just start covering everything in goo. Let's see here. There we go. That's not enough. Okay. So we know we need to get up here. And so we were just playing with all these gels, so like we're playing with all these gels, so we have a bit of an idea. And it looks like I had a bit of a network issue there. I apologize for that if that broke. So we're playing with all these gels here. We know we got to do something with them. We've been playing with stuff before, the infamous slanted portable surface, so we know that we probably got to do something with that. And so we know that we're probably going to be flinging ourselves again. And like I said before, when we started very early on, when we were covering the flinging tutorial, we did it 3 times, on top of already doing it twice and doing else more. See you later, Quasar. So it's important. This is a thing that is used heavily in this game. And every time we use it, it's a new way of doing it. And so it's this design, like we're given this small little area. And so we have all these hints though showing maybe we need to be doing stuff like flinging, like the slant. We've always, like whenever there's gonna be a slanted area like this, we almost always can assume that someone, or either ourselves or something, is going to need to be flung. And then you have these tall vertical portable surfaces to show, hey, like, yeah, you can get up pretty high now. And then a portable floor, and you're like, all right, cool. We got to fling ourselves. That's what this means. And so in this case, they took that, what we had normally been doing, and then they added in the new mechanic of the gel. And so, well, I'll even do it again because it's really fun. I don't know if I have enough speed to do it this time. Nope, I gotta do it from over here. Doing it from over here. We know this is a basic fling. We've been doing it, but they've added something new to it to test what we've been learning in an environment of something that we've already done. So, again, just architectural view here, or just the architectural lines. Our eyes are drawn upwards because of the tall white surfaces, like it's portable. We have the slanted thing to say, hey, this is a fling. And then we have the new drip saying we need to use this. And I think this is one that I hit earlier. Yeah, that was one of the ones that I did earlier. And so now we're just above where we once were. And this is just another callback, and another, like, kind of a refocusing of for the player, and a kind of a way to remind them where they are. Which is something that when you're dealing with portals, because you're constantly teleporting around, and we say that with just teleporting in general, you want to be very careful with how you're teleporting the players, because if they can't see where they're going or where they're going to be, when they get there, they're going to be very disoriented because they have to stop, take some time, figure out where they are, and then move forward. All right, so and this is where we get to play with a bunch of new stuff. This catwalk right here is 100% intentional. We have no idea, like, we don't even need to recognize that this is we don't need to recognize that this is a puzzle yet to realize that this is an important catwalk, which then probably means this is going to be a puzzle. So we have one last puzzle that we have to solve using pieces from the other one that we just had. And let's see if I'm able to actually get this right the first time. Okay, that's not going to do us any good. And so this is just a bit of more of a pacing thing also, because we want to make sure that the player hits and doesn't rush their way through where they need to go. So we're given all these options here for what we can do to paint things. I believe, because it's been a little bit of time since I've done this, I believe all I need to do is this. And I could be wrong. Nope. Right, so we've done that once. Probably have to do this one more time. Yep. So we got ourselves probably one more fling in us to get to, because we need to get to above us right there, and in that case we don't. There we go. We jump on out. So it's again back up with the vertical looking. No cues for that one that we had to look up, but we just we knew that we needed to look up because we've been doing it so much. So that's one of the things that you have to, if the player has to be doing something that goes against normal convention, like constantly looking up, constantly looking behind them, not jumping, or not firing and firing. You need to design your levels and build your game around that specific thing, and you need to train them in it, especially if it's something new that isn't necessarily covered in normal games. So in this case for Portal, it's looking up, and they taught us very early on, gotta keep looking around. So we'll see here, let's go through this one. Again, so we have a doorway. Doorways are great for level designers because we can frame things for the player. We can let them know exactly what they need to know, and in this case, if we're looking just forward here, we see the blue gel, we see the white gel, we see the this cube that we have no idea what to do with because it's inside this glass over here, and we see all the portable surfaces, and if we just keep looking around, we see the exit. So we have all the pieces that we need. This is in terms of design, it's a straightforward puzzle. We have all of the pieces. We just got to now put them together, and how are we going to do that? Bit of environmental kind of storytelling. We see that there's a mesh grate at the top of this, and we know that gel liquids, at least in general, go through meshes like this in real life. I don't know if you have a liquid that doesn't go through a mesh like this. Either it's not a liquid, or please call a scientist. So we know that we probably need to do something with that. And these little circles here, these are a decal, kind of like the doors that I talked about earlier. Again, for those who are just joining us, a decal is basically a sticker. It's essentially like a sticker of a material or a texture that we can apply onto a surface of a mesh or of a brush or something like that, that basically makes this. So in this case, this looks like a decal, and we know that this probably means that we'll have to put a portal there at some point, but we see one here too, so we're gonna drop that there, and we have no idea what's going on. We gotta get this out somehow. And this is where we get to start experimenting a little bit. And in this case, since I'm a cheater and I've played through this game like 600 times, we know exactly that we have to put repulsion gel on it. And that causes it to bounce around a lot. So I can catch it here. I catch it, and then if we had put it down, and I'll see if I can, let me do that right here. Cover this in gel really quick. If I put it down, it's gonna start bouncing around again. But if it gets covered in water, it goes away, and now we can start actually using it normally. So that's just a little game design thing. And so we never actually need to use the water, but again, if we missed it earlier, then that would be a little more difficult for us. If we miss the water and to put it away, then we have a little bit more trouble doing that. But it's a simple puzzle that makes you really, really think creatively on what you need to do. And my train of thought got lost there for a second because I was stuck. All right, so now we cannot leave this button, because if we go over here, and I will walk over here, if I take the cube off, we cannot get to the top of this in time. So we definitely need to leave this cube here. And that means that gets stuck there. And so now we have to somehow get the cube off of the button here. We don't know how we're gonna do that just yet. So we'll just cover it in blue stuff, let it bounce around, and we're free to go. And the way that this is set up, since we know that we're going to be facing in this direction, it just allows us to give us one last look back at what we had done and be like, hey, I feel smart for figuring that out, because this was one of those puzzles that I mentioned this earlier, where a good puzzle game is going to, like, I should say not really a good puzzle game, but almost every puzzle in a good puzzle game is going to have an aha moment. A moment where you feel like super duper Einstein smart because you figured out how to solve this puzzle, and it's like you beat it at its own game. And that's what this puzzle was definitely for. was one of those where we had all the pieces together. We didn't have to walk through it and figure it out, but we had all the pieces together, and we just needed to figure out what the proper order to do them in was, and how they worked. And so this pane of glass here, they could have just blocked this off, but if they had, we wouldn't have been able to see the exit, and we wouldn't have been able to have like this nice little look back and be like, I totally owned you, puzzle. I got this. I'm good. I'm smart. I got this. And it sounds kind of narcissistic for that, but a lot of levels and a lot of games do that.